When driven by sexual desire, men and women develop a keenness of imagination, courage, willpower, persistence, and creative ability unknown to them at other times. Hello, I'm Carla, psychotherapist and mindset coach, and on this channel, I help you get unstuck and reach your goals by exploring topics that shift your mindset so you can live your highest potential. We are continuing the reading of Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich, and I'll be reading from the condensed version, Think and Grow Rich in 10 Minutes a Day. We are on Chapter 10, The Mystery of Sex Transmutation, the 10th Step Toward Riches. The desire for sexual expression is by far the strongest and most impelling of all the human emotions, and for this very reason, this desire, when harnessed and transmuted into action, other than that of physical expression, may raise one to the status of a genius, the great motivator. When driven by sexual desire, men and women develop keenness of imagination, courage, willpower, persistence, and creative ability unknown to them at other times. This chapter is one of those chapters in Think and Grow Rich where people, it kind of goes over their head, they don't really understand it, they feel intimidated by it, they think it's weird, but it is one of the most powerful chapters. This was one of the chapters we were studying when we, as coaches, were at the Napoleon Hill Foundation over this last week. We sat in Napoleon Hill's office at his desk. It was so amazing. And we studied this chapter. So just keep an open mind, and I hope you get a lot out of it. Hill discovered that individuals who had reached their apex of success shared two unique traits. They had what he calls a highly developed sex nature, and they were motivated by the influence of someone to whom they were sexually attracted. For such individuals, these two forces serve as a major source of action for them, energizing them to implement their definite plans and persevere through challenging times. Sex, as one of the three great positive emotions, along with love and faith, induce a state of mind conducive to attracting riches, material and otherwise. When sexual desire arises in an individual, it stimulates the mind to vibrate at a higher rate, creating a more direct line between that individual and infinite intelligence. The mystery of sex transmutation functions according to the same basic logic as the psychological principle of sublimation, though without the moralizing over what constitutes acceptable or unacceptable drives. Impulses can be redirected toward more productive means by harnessing them and giving them a positive outlet. In other words, sexual energy is converted into creative output through the application of willpower, courage, imagination, persistence, and creative ability. So what he's saying is when we have this drive, when we feel this attraction, this sexual energy towards a partner or anybody, regardless of how it's stimulated, when we feel that, we can channel it. We don't have to express it like any animal does. We can channel it into our creative faculties, using willpower, courage, imagination, persistence, and our creative abilities. So using that excitement, that energy, to not express it physically, but express it spiritually. Through our imagination, through our creativity. Raw sexual energy is constructive in nature and can be directed toward three positive ends. 1, ensuring the perpetuation of the human race. 2, maintaining sound mental health. 3, discarding creative mediocrity for creative genius. However, many people misuse it. Yes, they do. Dissipating its energy through overindulgence in physical ends meant only to gratify the individual's carnal nature. So usually we use that energy. We don't think that there's another way to express it. So we just release it in that carnal, just the physical animal nature. And it dissipates that powerful creative energy, the potential of it. I'm sure you've heard before when there's a big fight, these fighters, these sports stars, if they're getting ready for a big race, they practice abstinence. They save all of that energy so that they can exert it in their performance. This tendency is heightened in youth, which is one reason why most people do not amass great riches until they are in their 40s, 50s, and 60s. Did you hear that? So he's basically saying that young people overindulge. They just get rid of this powerful energy, the sexual energy, when they're young because they don't know how to channel it into more creative outlets. But when they get a little older, they learn how to harness it in a different, more creative and constructive way. So he's saying that's why most people don't reach great riches until their 40s, 50s, or 60s. Geniuses are made, not born. Love, romance, and sex are all emotions capable of driving men to heights of superachievement. Hill believed that genius is not an inborn trait. Rather, it is something that can be cultivated through the enlargement of one's thoughts and willingness to take action on them. Genius is a result of stimulating one's thoughts so that they vibrate at a much higher frequency than normal thought, thereby attracting constructive vibrations from infinite intelligence, inspiration. This in turn results in higher quality, wider ranging thoughts that support the functioning of the creative imagination, which can pair with infinite intelligence to generate new knowledge. As you'll recall from chapter 5, the creative imagination is the only way of producing entirely new ideas. Remember, he talked about synthetic imagination, taking what already is and making a new iteration of it, versus creative imagination, making something brand new that does not exist. So as you recall from chapter 5, the creative imagination is the only way of producing something entirely new, new ideas. The synthetic imagination, otherwise known as the reasoning faculty, reorganizes existing knowledge to produce new combinations. Although it often is responsible for translating desire into riches, the synthetic imagination is prone to error because it results largely from an individual's personal experience, which is altered by bias, memory, and other subjective elements. The mind can be stimulated to a higher rate of vibration primarily through the following means: sexual desire, love, burning desire for fame, power, or financial riches, music, friendship, mastermind alliance, mutual suffering, as through shared persecution. That's what we call trauma bonding in therapy. Autosuggestion, fear, drugs, and alcohol. These are all ways to raise your vibration. The last two are destructive. Drugs and alcohol and fear. Those are destructive mental stimulants that can affect the mind in unpredictable and volatile ways. I can relate to that. When one or more of these 10 stimulants activates the mind and the creative imagination, the individual loses their bondage to lower ordered concerns like food, shelter, and clothing, and becomes focused almost exclusively on the creative expression of their ideas and the translation of desire into reality. Many of the world's greatest inventors have leveraged the power of sexual energy to create new knowledge by engaging in the following processes. 1. Begin by organizing and combining known ideas and experiences through the synthetic imagination. 2. Using one of the 8 constructive mental stimulants mentioned above, activate the mind so that it vibrates at a higher than average rate. I would say mine are autosuggestion and music. Those are what I love to raise my vibration. 3. Concentrate on the combination or product of the known elements until a perfect mental picture results. Hold this picture in the mind until the subconscious grasps onto it. 4. Once it becomes embedded in the subconscious, clear the mind of all thought and await an answer in the form of inspiration to flash into the mind. So these are the 4 steps. So begin by organizing and combining known ideas and experiences through the synthetic imagination. So if you want an answer to something, if you want an insight, think about what you are trying to get an answer to. Use that synthetic imagination. Then use one of the 8 constructive ways to raise your vibration. And then concentrate on a combination of products until you can see a mental picture. And hold it in your mind until you get emotionally involved with it. The subconscious mind gets a hold of it, our emotional mind. And then lastly, once it becomes embedded in that subconscious mind, when you're feeling it, clear the mind of all thought and just wait for the answer to come in the form of an inspiration or a flash in your mind. All right, he goes on to talk about charisma. Do you have it? People who lack sex energy will never become enthusiastic nor inspire others with enthusiasm. Personal magnetism or charisma is nothing more or less than sexual energy. When channeled appropriately, sexual energy affects a person's entire demeanor, transforming their self-presentation and level of enthusiasm. Their personality literally becomes magnetic, attracting supportive individuals and positive influences into their lives. Others are drawn to them because of the energy that they receive from their company, energy that can be communicated through the handshake, tone of voice, posture and demeanor, vibrations of thought, dress, and personal grooming. Successful salespeople are effective because they possess this quality and sell others not so much on a product, but on their energy and enthusiasm. Isn't that true? Wow. Think about all of the charismatic movie stars out there. We don't even care if they're good actors. We are just attracted to them. Musicians, artists, people that just ooze confidence, or they're very sharp and put together. Sometimes we're not even really attracted to them, or they're not our type, but their energy is just like palpable. We're just attracted to it. We can't help ourselves. Cultivating your personal magnetism by properly channeling your sexual desire also greatly supports the principle of autosuggestion, as your thoughts will be actively working to attract opportunities and positive influences into your life. All right, he goes into the action item, find your outlet. How do romance, sex, and love inspire you? Focusing on an individual toward whom you feel one or more of these emotions, either a current partner or a desired one, Write a list of the impulses you feel toward them. Oh, this is going to be interesting. Then apply these emotions towards a plan of action necessary to actualize your definite chief aim. So what he's saying is, if you think about someone you have these feelings for, if you have a crush, that's why crushes are so amazing. You take that energy and you apply those emotions toward your goals, taking action. Let it inspire you, let it fuel you. Journal about how your plan changes the nature of the task, reflecting as well on how new opportunities, perspectives, knowledge, and allies are attracted to you as you accomplish it. Well, that was short and sweet. That was chapter 10, The Mystery of Sex Transmutation, the 10th Step Towards Riches from Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich. We were discussing this when we were at the Wise Virginia trip to the Napoleon Hill Foundation over this last weekend. A group of certified coaches for the Napoleon Hill Institute went to a trip there, met with the CEO of the Napoleon Hill Foundation, Don Green. It was such an amazing experience. We got to go to the archives, see so many amazing books from Napoleon Hill that have not even been published. But with that, we were studying that chapter and we were all really talking about how we ourselves, or we see people misusing this energy of sexual transmutation. One gentleman was talking about how, especially young boys these days, they are addicted to pornography. They're constantly depleting themselves of this sexual energy, and they lose all creative ability to build things. And me as a psychotherapist, I understand that. I see the addiction. I see that there's these drives and they just basically want to take it out on your animal body. People that are promiscuous, it doesn't matter, no judgment. But all I'm saying is we can transmute this deep drive and desire into something more creative. Like I mentioned before, the example of the athletes, people who are physical performers, they practice abstinence before a performance because they want to keep all of that power within them and use it towards a constructive purpose. Wow, I love that. Next chapter, chapter 11, the subconscious mind, the 11th step toward riches. I say that about every chapter, but I really do love this. But thank you so much for spending your time with me. As always, reach out, leave a comment, send me an email. All the links to find me are below. I hope you tune in for the next chapter. I will see you next time.